Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. To be honest, I was really struggling with filming things the past couple days and thought I was not gonna do this, but here I am. If you hear any like breathing, moving around and whatnot, my dog is in here. Let me just turn you so you can see. So there she is. Yeah, so she's right there, chilling and sleeping. There's my plants. There's my bookshelves. There's me. There's a wall. Okay. Alright, so today we're going to be doing a very long wrap up. According to Goodreads, I have read 104 books. I think DNF like 12 and currently reading 4. There's a pretty good chance that this is going to be filmed over a course of a couple of days just because this is going to be long. And more books might be added to this list because I am, like I said, currently reading some. Laptop is here, so I'm just going to like start from the very first book and just go up on my reading challenge. I'm not going to go into much detail about these books because there's just too many. So let's just get into it. The first one is The Wallflower Ledger by Tessa Dare. I believe it's like book 2 or 3 in the Bride Bet series. Nope, Bride Bet is book 4. The Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. Tessa Dare, absolute gold. I've read romance before, but it was always very like fade to black, cutesy, fairy tale, happy ending type of book. And then I read Tessa Dare and I was like, okay, I kind of like these darker characters and plot lines. And then I started picking up some other romances and I was like, oh, we gonna get into this. Romance, here we come. I gave that one like 5 stars. I'm pretty sure 1 and 3 got 5 stars and book 2 got like 3 stars. Book 2 was, I don't know what that was. The next book is a reread of The Rescue by Nicholas Sparks. This is probably one of the only books that of his that I tabbed, which we can't even see because this light is just destroying. Okay, anyway, so this is about a volunteer firefighter who finds a car in a car wreck and he saves the girl, and the girl was like, yo, where's my son? And he's like, what child? There is no child. And she's like, well, I have a son. We're in the middle of a storm. Get him. And so he calls up other people and he's like, yeah, so that lady that came to the hospital, she had a son. He was not in the car at the time of the accident. I don't see him looking like he was ejected from anywhere, which they now think, you know, he got up and walked away. Basically what he did. So they had this very long search for him, and then the romance happens between the firefighter and the girl. 5 stars. So this does have mental illness and disability reps, so read it. The next book I read is The Doll People. That is also a reread. It's a book that I read in like middle school. It's about a doll named Annabelle. I believe that's her name. Who comes to life at night. Basically Toy Story, except dolls and dolls only. And I think her aunt went missing and she's kind of tired of sitting around pretending like it didn't happen. So she goes on a journey to find her aunt. Then I read Be Cute by Emma Lord. This is the arc. This was amazing. 5 stars. You know, I've been really impressed by a lot of the debut young adult authors lately. I don't know what's going on with our literary agents, but they have been getting it every time. City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is the only edition that I have of it other than an ebook, so I might just put a picture over this just because. This is from my Shadowhunter read-along thing that I'm doing all year, which I'm currently behind on. Whoops. And I do believe City of Bones I gave 5 or 4 stars, or maybe 4.5. City of Bones is great. The next 5 that follow, next I read is In Bed with the Highlander, which is a trilogy about 3 brothers. I think it's called the McCabe clan, McCabe trilogy. Each brother kind of have their own. Is it a clan? I think they call it a clan. And the way they speak reminds me a little bit of the way they talk in the movie Brave. So maybe they're from there. This one I think is book 1, where the female character is running away from I think her father and some other guy, because they want to marry her. Basically, if you marry her, you get a whole lot of benefits, you get a lot of power, etc. She's like, I'm not about that life. Deuces. So she goes running. I believe she runs into a little boy. I don't know what he was doing, but he's like in some trouble. So she saves him. They go together, just running. And then he's like, yo, you should come to my uncle's house. Like, let's go. And so they go to his uncle's. And then, you know, we meet one of the McKay brothers and stuff happens. This one, trigger warnings for, was it rape? I can't remember if she consented the first time or not. So we're just gonna go with a possible rape scene in book 1. I cannot remember if she consented that first time or not. Future editing is Asia here. I do not believe she consented the first time. That was done within, I think, like 3 minutes in their time, maybe like a page or 2 in our time. If I remember correctly, they were being attacked at this moment, and he knew that she was taken away. The marriage between them would not be legitimized. They didn't do anything, and he knew that that would affect his clan and the guy, and I think possible war would happen. I'm trying to remember the details. And so he was like, oh, we're being attacked, so we're gonna do this real quick. So he kind of forced himself on her, and then he dipped out to go fight the guy, and then she was left crying. I think after that, he came back and apologized. He realized that that was wrong. He shouldn't have done that. He should have been more gentle, more careful, and etc. And maybe like lied about it to the guy and like kept her hidden or something. And he tried, and then he works to make it up to her, and etc. etc. Then I read Beyond the Kingdoms by Chris Colfer, which is book 4 in the Lena Story series. I do believe this series has a little bit of middle book syndrome or middle series syndrome, whatever that's called. When like the first book is good, the second one is and then the further along you go, the worse it gets. Because the more I read, the less interested I am. I read this one on audiobook and I was just like, okay, can we finish now? And some parts of the plot line was a little too obvious to me. Like I figured out who one of the characters were. I was like, how much you want to bet? That guy is this guy, and she's about to do this, and he's gonna do that, and then it happened, and I was like, The next book I read is The Year of Less, which I read as an audiobook. And this is about a woman, I think like Kate Flanders, her going through a lot, trying to go over through her addictions and limiting and minimizing the amount of things she has and what she wants and what she needs, and like working on herself. Because I think she is one of those people that shops a lot. I think she also did drugs and drinks a lot and something else. So she really wanted to cut down on both those addictions as well as cut down the amount of things that she had in her home that she didn't really need. And so I thought it was interesting how she went from such a, I guess you could say like normal amount of things to like nothing, and how she has lived that way and how it like helped her. The next book I read, do I have that? I do have that. Okay. The next book I read is Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. I read this for my Shakespeare class. I think this was the beginning of spring semester, so right around January. Yeah. This one is the first and probably one of the only Shakespeare stories that I can understand and explain to you and tell you what I enjoyed. The other ones I probably can't explain to you very well or whatnot, just because Shakespeare is a author that I've had a hard time understanding, especially since a lot of teachers don't really explain what's going on. They kind of let you guess, or like if you read it and you don't know like what the Shakespeare words mean in like modern English, you're just lost. So I feel like with this teacher, she did really well of like stopping every couple of lines and breaking down what each lines mean, what the words mean, what those phrases mean, how that would affect someone then compared to now and things like that. I gave that one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. Then we moved on to Othello, which this one I had a harder time understanding. I think this was February-ish. This, I think, is when things started to go downhill in class because people started to stop showing up. There was a lot of like bad weather, so sometimes she would cancel class. I think this is around the time when the coronavirus started picking up and people were kind of like, what's going on here? I don't think it was in, I think it was in the States, but I don't think it was like everywhere just yet, but it was definitely picking up a little bit. and things were going on. So this one we did finish. Honestly, I was lost the entire time because I would think it would go one way and then it went a complete different way. Yeah. So the next book we read, well, I read, was Free Lunch by Rex Ogle, which is like a kind of sort of autobiography about his childhood and how his financial situation affected him in his life and what happened during that time. This one was deep and dark. Deep and dark. Like, I read it and I really had to kind of like sit there and just be like, process what I just read, because you don't realize how lucky and fortunate you are until you like read or see something like that where it reminds you like, hey, some people aren't as lucky or did not grow up the same way you did. And honestly, I just, wow. The next thing I read is My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I listened to this as an audiobook. I think it's one of the first audiobooks I listened to this year, other than, let me scroll real quick, The Year of Less. Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones. And Free Lunch, I think. I give this 5 stars. I don't read a lot of thrillers. I don't read a lot of murder mysteries just because they're either too predictable, they're boring, or the plot twist keeps happening at that point. I'm just like, can we just come on, can we pick one? Woo! This is about a couple who murders together. That's, I think, My Readings Odd said that in the video about a couple who murders together, and I was like, add the TBR immediately. That's what I expected, a couple who murders together, which you do get, but like, that last, I think, 200 pages, I was like, I am not going to bed tonight because I just wanted to finish and I wanted to know exactly what happened, who did what. I was shook. I was shook. Then I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I actually read this twice this year. I read it like January, February, and then I reread it like 2 days ago because I really enjoyed the book. This, I gave 5 stars both times. This was great. Because you would think it's going to be your typical story with like the teenage girl and her sidekick, best friend, boyfriend, whoever it is, solves the murder. That's what you think is going to happen. There was some plot twists in here. I was like, oh. Oh. Okay. Read it twice this year. You should read it. Also, there is a sequel that just came out this year. There's a sequel. I thought this one came out this year and this was coming out next year. Apparently this came out last year and this one came out this year. And I think there's going to be a book 3 coming out next year. So I think the time that everyone was reading this, when this got really popular on BookTube, was when this just came out. Which I was confused because no one picked this up and talked about this. I don't know. But I haven't read this one yet. I might very soon. So pick them up because they're good. Oh, ew. The next book I read is, well, I didn't really read the whole thing. I read some of it. It's like the Norton's Anthology of Literature by Women, Volume 1. And I also did Volume 2. I didn't read the entirety of it because they're like this thick. And it's not really what I want to read. I read it for my women's writing class. I only read like certain pages and chapters that we needed. And then I put it down after that. I did try to order it for myself. I ended up getting the, which one is it? The American Literature one, which I think is over there in the corner. So I'm going to have to sell those or give those away if anybody needs it. Hint, hint, if you need the Norton's Anthology, American Literature, Volume A and B, let me know because I have them. I don't need them. Ooh, the next one I'm excited about. First of all, she's gorgeous. Second of all, she's gorgeous. Third of all, she is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I read this earlier this year on a whim. 5 stars, all-time favorite, added to the list. Done. That's it. This is about pirates, mermaids, fantasy, evil kings, magic, princesses, what's that thing when you come up to the throne? Your coronations. You got murder, you got suspense, you got steamy scenes, there's a very strong sexual tension relationship between two characters in here. You got look. If you like anything I just listed, pick this one up. I'm so tempted to reread this because it is masterpiece. Masterpiece. She is a dark-skinned, beautiful queen. Can we get a dark-skinned, beautiful queen art, please? Thank you. So the next book I read is Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This was for the Hunger Games read-along that Peyton reads, Avery Loves Books, and a couple other people did in celebration of Ballad, SONGBIRDS, and Stinks. The book I read is Writing Poems, which is another textbook I read for school. This is by like Michelle Bousseau and a couple other people. I didn't read the entirety of this, but I did read a good majority of it to help with my writing because we were writing poems at the time. I think the first half I did poems, second half I did short stories. And yes, I did have 3 English classes. I had Shakespeare, women's writing, and creative writing. The girl was going ham. So this one is a textbook that I could definitely see myself purchasing and using in the future just because I felt like it was very helpful with my writing. However, I'm not much of a poet. I think I'm more of a short story / novel writer. So I think I might purchase the other book we read, which I'll talk about later. Then I read My Hero by Debbie McCumber, which I believe was about a woman who's in a group of female writers. And she's been trying to get published, but her book keeps being rejected and sent back because they feel like her main character, well, the male character, falls flat. Relationship doesn't sound like it's real, blah, 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 things like that. And so she runs into this guy at like a cafe or something. And he just so happens to be like the embodiment of the male character that she's been trying to write. And so the two of them talk and meet and do things to help her get inspiration for her character. And of course, there's some romance in there. Then I read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. Now, Miss Tessa Bailey came out here with her books like, I do believe there's a third one called My Tools of Engagement coming out this year. She came out with 2 this year, which I'm not complaining because her writing is great. Love Her or Lose Her is about a couple who are already married and having marriage issues, and so the wife is like, I want to do marriage therapy, counseling, like, let's go. And he's obviously a little skeptical, but he goes anyway, and let me just say, I would like marriage counseling books now. Couples counseling books, give it to me. Give me the recommendations. I'm into it. 5 stars. I actually think I like that one more than book 1. Like that's how good that one was. The next one I read is Swipe Right for Murder, audiobook, DNF. Next, not even gonna get into it. Meg Cabot, Bridal Book Camp is like 0.5, 1.5 of her series. And this one, popping in here to give a better description. This is about Roberta / Rob, who lives on this little island. I think it's called like Little Bridges. And she haven't had much good luck in the romance department. And so one day this deputy sheriff cop guy comes into her bridal boot camp, which is basically, I think, like weekly meetings with a bunch of potential brides or future brides who want to work on their body for the wedding. For example, some want to buff up, some people want to lose weight, people want to look skinny, blah, blah, blah. And so all of a sudden, this sheriff guy comes in and she's kind of like, hello. And obviously, in many romances, one of the first males you meet is the love interest, and he is, if I remember correctly, I think he decided to stay for the bridal boot camp meeting that day. And what ended up happening was, even though he looks like someone that would be able to handle that stuff, because, you know, he's a cop, I think he had struggles with certain things that she asked the women to do, which I guess she thought was entertaining. And so I do believe they start talking and hanging out and whatnot, and then I think she ends up going to one of his own events, and so they kind of like tie eye for an eye. Like, he came to her thing and she came to his thing, and it is like 100-something pages, so there's obviously like romance by the end of the book. I think this one I enjoyed. I gave this one 4 or 5 stars, but the other book in the series I DNF'd. And then the next book I read is Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher. Okay, this is about 2-3 stars. This is about a woman who is a wedding planner. This guy's a newspaper journalist. They both need each other to help their careers. They work together. There's some romance, there's some issues. I was bored. I gave it 2 3 stars. Next, I read The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. The Governess Game is about Alexandra, who has given the job, or like the impossible task, to take these 2 wild, you know, always in trouble, destructive orphans and make them into the most proper young ladies she possibly can. But she doesn't think they should go to school or be disciplined the way they are. She thinks that they need a loving home and a family and someone to care and support them. However, when she tries to voice that to the guardians of the orphans, it doesn't really go over well. So the 2 of them are like kind of battling with the way of how to take care of the orphans, and also trying to build their own friendship, because when you have different opinions, it tends to clash a lot. And of course, over time, there's romance. 2, it was whack. If it's 1 or 3, it was great. Fondled by Lexa Martin. I believe I gave this 4 or 5 stars. This is about a single mother who has a kid with a football player. They broke up at some point, and I don't think he knew about it because of when they broke up. They bump into each other later on. He's like, where's this kid coming from? Because his age is pretty smack close to our relationship, and so she tells him, like, this is your son. And because he's a jerk, he's like, no, it's not. I can't stand when they do that romance books. Anyway, they 2 rekindle and fix things, and their romance starts, but of course other issues are coming up because of things they have to deal with in the relationship, also because he has that concussion thing. I'll put it in the bottom, I can't remember what it's called, but he has that concussion thing, which is causing issues in the relationship because it's getting worse and worse and worse. And if you know anything about that, you know that people's behavior tends to become aggressive and depressed and all the other things, which is affecting the relationship with her and her son. And she's like, no, sir, get it fixed. But of course, because he's a stubborn football player, he is like, I don't believe it's a thing. I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm just fine. Sure you are. Even if you are just fine, all that attitude, needs to go. This one I read is Husband Material. What's this even about? The next book I read is One of Us Is Next by Karen McManus, which is the sequel to One of Us Is Lying, which I do believe I have it up there. Oh, you can't even see it, but it's up there. This was okay. I really enjoyed the first one. This one was good, but like now that I look back on it, it was okay compared to the book 1. This follows the siblings and some of their friends of people from book 1, and a similar game issue regarding people in the school is happening. With this one, they're doing truth or dare. Hold on. If you don't complete your dare within a certain amount of time or respond, a truth about you comes out. For example, if you were cheating on your ex, you're at that point, they'll reveal that. If they find out that you did this, that's your truth. If you choose truth, I believe something automatically just comes out about you because you chose truth. I like the concept of it, like the idea of the story. Once you get about 200 pages from the end, maybe 150 from the end, it's kind of going downhill for me. I did feel like that the whole ending chunk, I was like, because he went from murder mystery thing within high school to like a terrorist dude, and I was just like, it was not connecting for me. I was not interested. And then at the end, with all the you know, of course everyone is a relationship by the end because everyone likes each other after being almost killed. I was confused by the pairings because some of them made no sense to me. I don't know. This one definitely was not hitting it out of the ballpark like book 1. Then I read a ton of Shadowhunter books. I would get them all out, but I'm lazy. So I read City of Ashes, Clockwork Angels, Clockwork Prince, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels. I think there was one more like right after that. No, it wasn't. Okay. So I just read 2, 3, 4 of Mortal Instruments and 1 and 2 of Infernal Devices. I believe Infernal Devices, of course, 4 or 5 stars. Absolutely amazing. Mortal Instruments, 2 to 4 stars at most. I can definitely see she's a little bit of a trend with her writing. I don't know if I can't remember if she still does it now, which is why I'm happy to be rereading it so I can pick up on these things, but I definitely noticed that in certain books, some characters will get the spotlight, or it's more about them, and then the other characters will take the, like, you know, they'll be in the background. I mean, obviously they'll be there, but they're still in the background. And in the next book, it kind of swaps a little bit. For example, Simon, he was kind of like the best friend, you know, who cares about him. And I believe like book 2 to 4, he had a character, he had a role, he had a storyline, like he was doing things. I believe like 3, 4, Izzy and not Simon, Alec, kind of like bouncing back and forth between main character to like background character. Obviously, you know, Jace was top niche right there, top tier, front door main character. I don't really like Jace and Clary. I don't know. Jace seems like a very typical stubborn teenage boy, and then Clary seems like the impulsive, I'll make stupid decisions just because I can. The next thing I read is The Graveyards on Sunset, which is a collection of short stories and like what do you call it when people go on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and like talk about their day, or like tell you something that happened? Like, what do you call that? That's what this is. So this is a friend of my mom's, and they basically compiled a bunch of their like stories and times of working in a hotel and wrote about it. From what I remember, it was pretty funny. I thought it was really interesting, but it didn't really like do a lot for me, so I do think I gave like 2-3 stars. Then I read yet another Shakespeare book. I'm gonna pull them out if I can reach. I read Richard III and Hamlet. I believe Hamlet came first, and then we read this one. This one, I believe, was when we were sent home, so we had to do this all on our own by ourselves. I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't read it, so we can put that right over there. I spark noted it and like read a couple of bits, but I didn't like read the full thing. This one we were reading, and then coronavirus came, and then we were kind of like, we're just gonna keep it moving. So I did finish this one on my own, but like I said, I just exposed myself. No, I didn't. There's a whole bookmark in here. I did not finish this. I intended to finish this on my own, but apparently I didn't. I feel like I might have spark note the last chapter if I didn't finish, because I do remember reading the ending and being like, and then people were like, oh, this reminds me so much of Lion King. Now I see it, and I still don't see it. So yeah, Shakespeare and we're going to have a very tough love-to-hate relationship throughout my life of college and English life onwards, but we'll make it work. Then I read The Beast of Bestwick by Amali Howard. 5 stars. 5 stars. People did say it reminds me of them of Beauty and the Beast, and I think I said that at first, but then like when I look back on it, I can definitely see less and less similarities between this and Beauty and the Beast. I think the only thing that really reminds you of Beauty and the Beast is that she's some like knowledgeable woman with some sort of a title, not really, and then he's like this big rich king, lord, whatever he is. I don't know his title in the book, but he has like scars and issues, and he's very stubborn and rude and like other things. But other than that, it's not really Beauty and the Beast. Now let me just say, there were some scenes in here I was like, okay, I see you. They were doing it. They were doing things. She was firing at him with some attitude. He was firing back, and she was like, oh, you want to keep going? Let's go then. And I was like, oh, okay. There's also like the other plot line of her trying to save her sister, and I was like, and that reveal of her sister at the end, and I was like, oop. So book 2 comes up, you gotta read that because I want to know how that started. The next one I read is My Fake Rake by Eva Lee. I have no memory of this whatsoever. So My Fake Rake is about a woman named Grace who is a scientist and hasn't had much interest in starting a relationship until this man, you know, comes to town, and he is like exactly what she wants, what she needs, easy on the eyes, etc. And so she comes with this plan to take someone who isn't, you know, high status and train him to be high status, look like a high status, basically to make the other guy jealous and get his attention. And of course, the best option for her is one of her colleagues. And so I believe they come up with this like plan that she'll teach him to be like this top guy, and then he'll keep helping her fund for her science and whatnot, something along those lines. And as more lessons occur and more things happen, I think they realize that they have more feelings for each other than they originally planned, and she has less and less feelings for the guy that she originally wanted. I believe the issue with that is her and the guy that she's now engaged to, which is the guy she went after, are set to leave on like a expedition, something for their, you know, their work at a certain date, and she may not be back for a while. So two of them kind of need to figure out what they're feeling for each other, let the other person know, and like figure out what they want to do with that relationship and see what happens with that. Then I read Get Up Life, Chloe Brown. I think I'm one of the rare few that has read this book and did not enjoy it. This has like disability rep and interracial rep, which I now realize I should have been mentioning in all the other books that they have rep too, but whoops. A lot of these books have mental health rep, disability rep, race rep, LGBT rep, etc. I just realized I have not been mentioning them, but a lot of them do feature it. So if you would like to find some, I highly suggest going to my reading challenge and seeing all the books I read, because a lot of them have it. Get Life of Chloe Brown, like I said, I am one of the rare few that did not enjoy it. I did want to, but I was just, it was not clicking. Like, I did not see what other people liked about this. And so I gave it like 2 stars, I think. Now, onto that other textbook I was talking about earlier. What If? It was like writing fiction, writing prompts for fictional writers, something like that. Anne Bernays and Pamela Painter. This is something I will definitely purchase and use very soon for like anytime I write. Like I said, I think I'm finally setting on what I want to do. English major with the concentration of creative writing and maybe minor in journalism, just because those overlap and I could just get it all together. And then if I really want to, I could either work in publishing, I could possibly take extra classes to be like an English teacher, work in a library, depending on the requirements for that. Or I could work in a journalism place, write my own blog or something and just write. I mean, I have time to figure it out, but I could definitely do that. This book is something that I could see myself using for those careers, for school, and if I would ever write on my own, for example, NaNoWriMo, I could use this. It's great. This is more prompts and tips to write than how to write, if that makes sense. But yeah, the next one I read is The Shadows Between Us. Ooh, girl, TRICIA LEVENSELLER. I'm hooked. I've heard about TRICIA LEVENSELLER, I just never actually read a book, and then I read this because I heard the description was, I think the description that I was given was kill the king, and then, oh gosh, what's the description? It's like, I'm going to marry the king, then I'm going to kill the king, but I have to make sure no one else kills him first. And I was like, add the TBR, and I read it. 5 stars. That last 100, 200 pages, whew, I was holding on to my seat, I was sipping my tea, had my little lamp on trying to read. It was so good. It was so good. I'm sad that it's a standalone because I do want more of the characters, but I'm also happy that it is because I feel like if you did more with it, I don't think it would work very well, like the way the story ended. But that was good. That and All the Stars and Teeth, gosh. That one was a lot more steamy than All the Stars and Teeth, because she's a very confident person, very comfortable in her body and her sexual interests. I don't know what the right words to put there, but she's very comfortable with that. And he was all, let me get a piece. I was like, oh my god. 5 stars. If I can pull it out, it's stuck in here. Then I reread Red, White, and Royal Blue. As you already know, 5 stars. I've talked about this in many videos, many vlogs, many Goodreads reviews, many recommendations everywhere. It still has many other people. 5 stars. I think I read this in like 2 days, maybe 3, just because I tortured myself and then I annotated it a little bit. 5 stars. Read it. Read it. Read it. Then I read Catching Fire by Susan Collins. Again, this is for the Hunger Games read along. I believe I give this 5 stars. Catching Fire is my favorite of the trilogy. movie and book, something about Joanna and Finnick and going into that second Hunger Games. God, what is it called? I remember what it's called. It's something about that was just, it was great. Loved it. Then I read Exploring Psychology in Modules, which I do believe I have. Yes, I do. It's down there. This is a book that I read for my psychology class. And I took psychology on a whim because 1, I heard it was good, and 2, my friends convinced me to do it. And let me just say, I went through a phase of wanting to be a psychologist and wanting to major in psychology. Like, I talked to my advisor and I was like, all right, psychology major, what do we need? And she looked at me like, she's very supportive of me, but I've been in her office and changed my mind like 50 times, and I think she's getting a little like, can you choose one now? But yeah, I went through like a month or so where I was like, or maybe 2, I was like, can I do this? Honestly, if I did not switch schools, I'd probably be taking 1 or 2 psychology classes with the same professor. Like that's how deep it was going. I would do it here, but I would have to retake certain courses, and I just do not have the time. The next book I read is Irresistible by Melanie Harlow, I believe what her name is. This is an age gap romance. Age gap nanny romance. Single dad. Small town. What more do you need to know? Match Fit. Emily S. Duncan. This is a romance series. I only think I read 1 of them. About a girl who wants to be an aspiring model, actress, etc. And this guy who is a soccer player. Not football, soccer player. I think football's a different book. And they get set up by their agents to do a fake relationship to help his and both her career. If they're seen together, it shows that he is responsible, settling down, not playing around, doing all these parties, and it shows that she knows some high quality people and might get her name out there and get her some more gigs. They have, I don't want to say immediate, but it's pretty close to immediate, like instant sexual attraction. I feel like the actual feelings come a little bit later. I could be wrong. My memory could be way off because I'm thinking of like 3 different romance books at the moment. I think I gave this like 3 or 4 stars. The next one I read is an I Temporarily Do by LEIGH. This is a very, very short story about 2 friends who fake being, well, they actually get married, but they're not actually in a relationship. And so they get married to get some housing out of school because she needs housing, and he doesn't want to leave the school, and he wants to keep his housing because his fiance left him. And so they get married. Of course, being in that close space with each other and having to do that kind of thing together, their relationships, their feelings in the relationship builds, and of course relationship builds as well. Then I read Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, which is book 3 of the Hunger Games series. I gave it like 4 or 5 stars. If I had to rank the books, it would be Catching Fire, Hunger Games, and Mockingjay. I think I preferred more of the fighting for my life and killing other tributes than the fighting for my life rebellion type stuff. Then I reread Fairest by Marissa Meyer, which is the short story about the villain in the Lunar Chronicles, Queen Lavanna. 5 stars. Then I read We Used to Be Friends by Amy Spalding. This is about 2 best friends, and it takes place from both their perspectives. I've been talking too long. And it kind of bounced between timelines and memories and flashbacks to really tell you the story. So I believe one of them is more in the past and it builds up to the present, and one is more like present, reminiscing on past a little bit. I think that's how it was. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think her name is James. I hated her. She seemed very negative, homophobic. Just like she hated everyone and everything for everything, even though some of it wasn't even their fault, and it annoyed me. Now her best friend, on the other hand, whew, somebody give her a crown. Love her. Then I read This Is Crazy, which is another romance. This is about a girl who was hoping to get married, or at least engaged to her boyfriend of a long time, but he breaks it off, and a couple months later, she finds out he's engaged and whatever with this next chick, and it's like, we've been together for an extended period of time. You can do that with me. So she decides to be petty and tweet at his favorite hockey player and try to get a relationship with him and go on a date with him and whatnot. To be honest, I like the idea of that, but there wasn't a lot of that. There's a lot more of her relationship with the hockey player than her being petty towards the ex, because you only see the ex like twice in the entire book. The next book we read is The Worst Best Man. Give this like 2 stars. I'm not gonna get into it because I don't remember what it's about. Then I read Blitz, which is another book related to Fumbled. Same series, different characters. 2 or 3 stars. Then I read 2 Sharon SALA books, which is Color Me Bad and Way Back to You, because I wanted to catch up on the books in her Blessings Georgia series. I will be honest, Color Me Bad, I feel like you can definitely tell it was book 1, because there's a bit of growth between that and the later books that she's still currently writing. And I do believe, which one is that? What I say? Way Back to You was alright. I feel like her first couple ones, I was into it, and then later ones, I'm kind of like, not as into it, but it's like 10 book series, and she's got, what, 2 more on Goodreads, I think? Theirs for the Night by Katie Robert. I read this for the Smudathon thing that came out recently, and let's just say that was the if I could blush, I mean, you can't really see it on my skin tone, but if I could, that's what was happening, because that was basically, it's a short story introduction to a series about 2 guys who are in a relationship together who invite this girl over for a night, and they have a very interesting night. And then you find out, I think, that the 2 guys are part of a royalty. I don't know what exactly that story is about, which is, I'm assuming, it goes on to find out in the next books, but Then I read the entirety of the selection series by what's her name, Kara Cass. Peyton Reeds did this vlog series of reading all of them, and I was convinced. I was like, you know what, Peyton, let's do this. I'm gonna read it. I gave, I think, every single one 5 stars except the last one. I think the last one got 3 stars, and maybe the one before that got 4 stars. Or I know something got 4 stars. I don't know if it's the selection, like the collection of books, or if it was like the 4th book. But I know something got 4 stars, and the last one got like something. Anyway, I love that series. That is obviously not the best series in the world. It is not the most beautiful writing in the world. But I do believe it's a very entertaining, trashy YA novel for everyone. I'm just saying. Gotham Academy graphic novel. Give it like 3 stars. Dude, that could have been left in the drafts. Driven by Kay Bromberg. Left in the drafts. Y'all can keep that one too. I was very confused reading that. Ooh, we get to some of the good stuff. Okay, so then I reread Stars Above just because I love Lunar Chronicles, and I gave this like 4 or 5 stars. Then I read all of these short stories / companion novels to the Atlanta Stories books. I think they all became 3 or 4 stars. The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. 2 3 stars. You Deserve Each Other, 2 3 stars. I could not. Those 2 books are very beloved books in the like young adult, new adult romance community. That was not for me. Absolutely not. But then it got good for me because I went through a 2 3 star phase. Late to the Party by Kelly Quinlan. Ooh. Different races rep. Different sexualities rep. There's support for these sexualities in there. There's parents in here. Well, yes and no. This book, I cried. I don't really cry when I read books. At least I don't remember crying. I cried during this because I was like, I felt like I had a little bit of me in each of these characters. And also the main character, she's like figuring out herself because she's so used to being confined to a certain box and be expected to be somebody and working to be that. But then she realizes that maybe that's not who she wants to be and maybe not what she wants to do. So she's doing a bit of exploring and whatnot. And I was like, girl, I felt that deep in my soul. 5 stars. Like, that book, oh my god. It's a book you would expect to be a really cutesy contemporary, and then it comes with these deeper themes and discussion, and you're just like hit in the chest. You need a moment to sit down, to process. That was great. Then I read Verona comics. Same situation. Cutesy romance expectation, deep things, mental health, illness. Oh my god. Listen, I was crying during that too. There was mental health, I think there's like abusive parents, there's I think there's a death in here. Y'all. Late to the party in Verona comics, I don't know what was going on there. They came out and I was like, hello. 5 stars. Both immediately added to my list. I'm very excited to read what they come out next because those are really good. Then I read the entirety of Lauren Landish, McTannen? The Tannen Boys and... what are their names? Tannen Boys and Bennett Boys series. There are 2 trilogies following 3 brothers each. I read all of those. I think I gave them all 5 stars, maybe 1 with 3 stars. Then I read How Not to Kill Your Houseplant. Just about plants and take care of your plants. I gave like 3-4 stars. Anti-Virginity Pact by Katie Weismer. 3 stars? 3.5, I think. I think so. This is one of Katie Weismer's books that recently came out this year. I do believe she has a poetry collection coming out this year as well. And so I got this as a NetGalley ARC, and I was really excited to read it because I liked the idea of it. However, when I did read it, it didn't really do much for me. It was a very like, okay, then what, now what kind of book. Like, it didn't really do anything. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you did read that, I want you to know, trigger warning for almost everything possible. Everything. Everything. You want to do drugs? It's in there. Rapes is in there. Abuse is in there. Animal abuse is in there. Bullying is in there. LGBT people being treated like crap, that's in there. Like, literally, religion stuff in there. Like, literally everything's in there. So if you can come up with a trigger warning at the top of your head and you think it's in there, it probably is. So just be warned going in there. There's probably something that will trigger you. Then I read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, 5 stars, and a lot of people don't enjoy it. Sorry, but I did. That's all I'm gonna say. I think I would have preferred more of his progression from baby Snow to evil villain crap Snow, and less of him being in school baby Snow. That's just me. I mean, I did enjoy it, but I think I would have liked more of this part of the storyline than this part. Then I read Heartstopper, 5 stars. I don't know what took me so long to read it. On His Bended Knee, which is a book 1 in a long series, and they're all pretty short, about men who live on a ranch. They're typically men from the military with injuries they need to get over and to heal from. And I think they're having issues with the property, so they need to get married. I don't remember what exactly, how that worked out. It was like something with the property that acquired something, and they need to get married to solve the issue. So obviously we follow this guy who gets married to a vet, and she has like 5 dogs, which just I thought was kind of ironic because she heals and takes care of the animals. And so she ends up going to this place where a bunch of injured people are and kind of helps and heal them unintentionally. 10 Night Stand by Mickey Miller. I don't know what the heck that was. That was a whole 2 stars, 1 star. That was burn that. Then I read Burn For Me. Burn For Me. I don't even know what this was about. I'm pretty sure that was 2 stars too. Y'all can tell. You can tell what I'm interested in and what I'm not interested in because. Then I read X-Force comic graphic novels book 1 and 2. X-Force is not my favorite, so it didn't really do anything. Then I read Unravel Me. I don't know if I can continue the series. I know it's beloved, but Juliet's whole I like this boy, this boy, this boy, and this boy kind of annoys me. So then I read Girl Gone Viral. Gave it like 2-3 stars. It's about a woman who was friends with the main character in book 1, which I now realize this is the sequel to The Right Swipe. The other book I read previously is a sequel. Okay, let me make sure. This book is a sequel to Right Swipe. Hot and Hammered, I believe, is a sequel to Fixer Upper. I keep mixing up those two books. But Girl Gone Viral is about a girl and her bodyguard, because she's paranoid. She has a bodyguard all the time. But she's actually interested in him and he's interested in her, but I don't think they realize it until a little bit later in the book. And she goes viral because she was talking to this guy at a cafe and some other tweeter girl tweeted about her and made a very exaggerated romantic story about it, even though that's not what happened. And she goes viral. The problem with that is she doesn't want her privacy broken, and now that she's viral online, she's kind of just like, great. Yeah, it was like a 2-3 star for me. I think I've read some other books that were very similar that I enjoyed more, which is why I'm not like very wowed by this. And then I read This Is My Brain in Love. This has LGBT and mental health illness rep in here. Again, another cutesy book that you would expect to come out really cute, and then it ended up being very deep and emotional. Saga Volume 9. I'm gonna need him to write more. You cannot just stop at 9 and leave it off like that. Like, how do you just... My heart hurts. I read that and I was upset. And I went to go find out about Volume 10 and there was nothing about Volume 10. And I'm like, ma'am, sir, hello? You cannot just leave it like that. Like, I want Volume 10. That's it. I just want Volume 10. The Ice Planet Barbarians. Surprisingly, really enjoyed this. I read this as like, it's supposed to be like funny, like, okay, I'm gonna read this because it sounds ridiculous. A lot of people keep saying that. And just like everyone else, I think I was surprisingly wowed and enjoyed this. This is about a woman who is kidnapped along with many other women who go by these aliens, but the aliens have an issue with their ship, and so they end up being rejected from the ship, ejected? Yeah, they're ejected from the ship and they land on a different planet, and obviously they need to survive, so she decides to leave and go do things, and she runs into this alien guy, and then her and this alien have this steamy hot romance. But because they can't leave the planet because of some health things, all the women end up staying, I think. Or at least they end up trying to figure out, like, staying for now to see what they can do. Listen, when they started describing the aliens' body parts, yeah. House of Salt and Sorrows, 3 stars. A lot of people told me this is supposed to be like a very dark, scary, somewhat thrilly fantasy book. I didn't get that. I was bored. That's all I can say. I was bored. The Priory Orange Tree, which is right over there. I read this for the Buddy Reads a Latte read-along thing that she did this month. I read the entirety of that book, I think like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5. LGBT rep, dragons, fantasy, magic, pirates. Inside Out and Back Again, 5 stars, reread it. This is about a girl who's from Vietnam. And because of some wars and things going on there, her family leaves to the States, so they live with the host family, and it's about her family navigating life in the States. Learning English, getting jobs, trying to get off their feet and whatnot. 5 stars. Similar to that, I read A Long Walk to Water, which is about 2 people. The main story is about Salva, who leaves his country because of, rebels overthrowing the government and taking over, and it's not safe for him anymore. So he's like, we need to go. So he goes on this long walk, as in they actually walk, like, journey to a different country. Rebels get there, so he has to leave again, and he ends up going to this, like, refugee camp. And then they have a program for the lost boys, basically boys without families and whatnot. They end up going to the States, and he ends up going to the States to live with the host family and, like, start up his life. Second perspective is about Nia/Naya, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, who still lives in that country, but this is about 20 or so years later, and she has to make these daily trips to this pond with like very little water and get water for her family for them to boil, which often ends up being boiled down to nothing. And these mysterious men come to her town. She doesn't know if they're rebels or not, and they start drilling holes in the ground, and she's like, what's going on? And they're drilling holes to make water, which obviously the tribe is confused because they haven't had water in that spot ever. Tourist attraction, gave it like 2-3 stars. I think it's about a girl who goes to Australia for some reason and meets a guy and they have romance. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what else happened. Then I read Cool Prince. Everyone says that Carden is a terrible man in book 1. I agree. And I hope that he does something absolutely freaking amazing to redeem himself in book 2, because I don't understand how y'all let this piece of crap become this most beloved character by the end of book 3. He better do some best butt kissing I've ever seen in my life for him to be redeemed, because that is nasty. Then we have SHARON SALA, Deep in the Heart. As you know, I've read like all of her books in 2 years. Don't ask me questions. I'm obsessed. I gave this, I think like 2-3 stars, just because I felt like this was almost exactly like one of her other books that I read, and I enjoyed that one a lot more. I think this one would be better as more of a thriller. So if we cut out like half the romance and put more thriller and mystery and more things with the stalker, would have been great. That's what I was really rooting for. When we get to the romance, and I was like, if I really want to, I could read your other book. That's exactly the same. I'm just popping in here to let you guys know I have finished 2 more books since then. I reread A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I gave that 5 stars. And then I finished reading Layoverland by Gabby Noon. I believe I gave that one like 4 stars. Maybe 3.5. I cannot remember. And last but not least, well, technically not last, I read Not Your Sidekick by C.B. Lee. Give this like 2-3 stars. But this has LGBT right. This is about a girl who is working alongside some superheroes to help do things, or maybe she's working alongside villains. I can't remember, but I didn't really enjoy this one, unfortunately, which is why I'm sad, because I feel like this year has been a lot of 3 stars, very books, and I would like things that make me feel like I want to be obsessed. I want to be invested. I want more. I don't want to read it and be like, and I'm getting a whole lot of this year. So if you have any outstanding, amazing, impossible, incredible, wow, never done before,
never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit,
or 5-star books, recommend them to me down below, because your girl needs them. Please. Now, let's go into my DNF books. So I wasn't really sure if I wanted to put my school books in here, just because I read it but didn't read it. But I'll let you know. So, it's majority school books, just because I have a hard time concentrating in books for school. Richard III, Hamlet, Northern Anthology, Book 1 and 2. The Glass Sword by Victoria Aveyard. I wanted to try continuing with that series. I never really liked Book 1. And so they told me to try Book 2. So listened to my gut, because I didn't like it. Then I read Pride and Prejudice. I'm not a classics girl, so I was really struggling with that one. Jane Eyre as well. A Ballad of the Sad Cafe, Beloved as well. I'm not a big classics person, or like Victorian era type books. I really could just not get through those. So I read what I needed for class, and that was it. Then I read Writer's Revenge by 4 authors and the publisher from hell. That book was painful. So painful to get through. I couldn't even finish it. The reason why I say that is because the grammar, the pronunciation, and the plot, the characters, it was all just, it felt like a very, very rough draft that just skipped all the edits and went to publishing. If you have made it this far, God bless you, because I know I've talked a lot. I threw some shade at some books, praised some books and whatnot, and it is a lot of talking, and so I do apologize. I suck at making wrap-ups, and this was long overdue, and a lot of you wanted to see it. If you have made it this far, drop a purple emoji. Why not? Emoji down below. We can make a game. If you could recommend me a book with purple on the cover, you're amazing. If you could do that, send them my way. Yeah, I just want to expand my purple collection, so why not use this moment to get some recommendations. If you would like to support or donate or learn more about the Black Lives Matter that's going on right now, I will have a ton of links down below. If you would like to find new Black booktubers or bookstores or etc. to find, I have a couple links of those down there as well. If you're unable to donate yourself, there are a bunch of YouTube videos you can watch and stream who will donate the money from their videos instead. For example, I do believe Hardback Quarter and a couple other people are donating all of their money from the month of June to different causes and funds. I think that's everything. So with that being said, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching and taking the time out to watch this. I know life has been hectic with everyone going back to work and starting things up again. If you would like to see another wrap up, let me know. I will try to do them monthly so we're not sitting here for an hour next time. And like I said earlier, I'll see you in the next one.